Hello everybody and welcome back to my castle. I'm Estes, your local vampire, and today I want to talk about something with you. So, there's a question that has been bothering me for almost as long as I decided to be part of the alternative goth scene, and that is, what actually makes us goth? Let's talk about it. So, when I first had contact with the alternative scene, it was mostly through the music actually. I used to listen to a lot of metal music, which I still do, but for me, this was like the beginning of me getting into this subculture. But back then, I didn't even know what Gothic even was. So it began a bit like me just listening to the music and slowly learning more about the whole thing. But as you might already know, the Gothic subculture is a bit different than, for example, being a metalhead. And that is because Gothic is actually not only the music or not only the clothes. So, what actually makes us to be goth? And I think that's a question that is actually not that easy to answer because there are many different things that go into that. So, you can't really call yourself goth if you only wear black clothes, or in my opinion also if you only listen to gothic music. But that's kind of already where the problem begins a bit, because what actually counts as gothic music, especially because there are a lot of bands who have songs that sound very goth, but the band itself isn't goth. So does this specific song now counts as gothic music or doesn't it? So in my opinion, it does, because a band or an artist doesn't have to limit himself or themselves to a single genre or to a single kind of music they make. That is already a problem, sort of, because I know that there are many people who would probably disagree with me, but also, in my opinion, it is important to say that you don't really only have to listen to stereotypic gothic music like post-punk, dark wave, similar. You can also listen to other genres, and for example myself, I listen to so many different genres that it is actually quite hard to say what I listen to the most. But also, this led me to this question: what exactly makes us goth? Is it even okay for me to call myself goth if I listen to more metal music than actually goth music and don't dress very goth the most time? Because my style for everyday outfits is a bit different than what I'm wearing right now. So, can I still call myself goth if I don't listen to goth music the most? Or do I have to say, okay, I'm more of a metalhead, or am I something very different? And that is something that I've been asking myself a lot also lately, because what differs these two from each other? Whereas, like, the line you have to cross where you are, in this example, goth or a metalhead. So where's the line in between? Because as you know, there's also a whole genre called gothic metal, and for me, this is one of my absolute favorites. I really like listening to this genre of music, but I also really love the classic goth music, and sometimes I just prefer, for example, listening to dark wave, and in other days I prefer to listen to industrial metal, and where is the line? And for that, I think we also have to talk about some other topics that are really important for the Gothic subculture, which is, in my opinion, also how you look. So you don't have to go with these new trad goth outfits every day or even in general. I mean, I usually don't look like this, and I know many other people also don't, because there are so many sub styles in Gothic that is, I mean, I really like it, but it makes it, I think, for people outside of the scene sometimes quite hard to distinguish between these. Also because some styles that, or some people who just wear black doesn't mean they are goth. Some are metalheads, some are emo, and some people just like wearing black. But that is something I think outstanding people from the scene just don't realize, and that makes it sometimes a bit difficult, in my opinion, also because we have many points where we cross. But with the Gothic scene, it's, as I said, not just the music, it is the way you look, the way you present yourself, it is what your beliefs are, your views on the world. And that is, I think, one of the most important points in this whole thing. Because existing as a goth alone, the way you are, is already going against the established system. So the way we are supposed to be, what other people expect from us, from how we should look like, what we should do, and everything. So that brings us to a point where we have to say, what is it that we have in common? What is it that we have to say, this is how you should think and how you should view the world if you want to call yourself goth. So, in my opinion, you can't be a very conservative person and be goth, because these are two things that just in no way go together. It just doesn't work. I mean, make this make sense to me. How can you be a conservative person and also be goth? It just doesn't work. It is just insane to me how people can believe in that, because, as I said, the existence as a goth itself is completely against what the conservatives believe in. I mean, the Gothic scene is very open in a way, so not to everything, of course, but to, I think, the kind of people that can go there. So I know there are gatekeepers and everything, but I think you know what I mean. In some way, I think we also have to gatekeep, because there are, especially in this age, a lot of people that think that Gothic is just an aesthetic, which it absolutely isn't. It is so much more than it, and it is also not only the music. So for everything together, you really need all of the aspects of Gothic. And that is just not only one thing, like the clothes or the music. It is everything together. And if you think you can, or you want to be goth, then you really have to think about, does this represent me? Of course, you can also wear these clothes and be happy with it, but then don't call yourself goth. Of course, you can also listen to gothic music and just don't do anything of the rest, but then don't call yourself goth. Because what you wear or what music you listen to, that is completely up to you. But the gothic subculture is a group of people that also unite by the way we think and what we do. And that is just not only one of those aspects. I mean, as a different example, I think we can take, for example, punk or metal, which is basically 100% music based. So you listen to metal, you're a metalhead, and that's it. There are many different people with many different beliefs and views on the world in this scene, and I have to say, there are many bands and also fans I just disagree with and that I do not like, solely based on what they do and what they represent. it is just absolutely not for me, and some of them are just not okay, to say it that way. So I know there are some of these kind of bands or artists also in the gothic scene that do bad things or that say sometimes also bad things, but it is these core beliefs that I think that we have all in some sort of way to agree with, because as I said earlier, there are some things that just do not go together. Also, in my opinion, it is really difficult to be a religious person and goth at the same time, because from everything I have learned about religion and seen about religion, and I'm not pointing at any specific religion here because I haven't seen one single religion till now that isn't in some way very problematic, or that has people that are very problematic, that do very bad things, and people that have very bad beliefs. So I think it is really difficult also to put these two together. So it might work for some, but when I look at religions right now, I personally just can't support any of this, because how can I call myself a believer of or follower of some certain religion if I know what bad things have been done in the name of this, and what bad things this religion still does today? And I think there is literally no religion that isn't guilty of this. So I think this is, I don't know, it is difficult, and I would recommend to a person like this, if I see one, just really think about what is this what you believe in, and what does this represent when you say I am part of this certain religion, and do you really are okay with being a part of this? And this is, I don't know, in my opinion, just a bit difficult for me to understand how these two things should go together. So I personally don't really understand. I mean, there are some people I've seen that seem to be completely fine with that, but I personally am very skeptical of this, simply because can you really support that with calling yourself a member of these religious group? And I think this is something that is, also in my opinion, quite important for this whole thing, because in the gothic subculture there are many people coming together, many different people coming together, and in this way we shouldn't really be gatekeeping who comes in there. So despite of the obvious things that you shouldn't be there if you are a bad person of any way, that just doesn't really go together. But despite of these things, I think everyone is actually welcome there. And it is also, at least for myself, a thing of being able to express myself in the way I want to. And that is, I think, something that many new gothic people don't quite understand because of social media and everything. And they think that you have to be a certain way, as I said earlier, with this trad goth thing, which is new because the original goths from the 80s did not look like this. And these, what I also showed you in the previous video, more like trad goth makeup, does have more in common with drag makeup than with actual traditional goth makeup from when the gothic subculture came to life. So don't be mistaken by the name there. It literally is, in my opinion, quite misleading. Especially because, I mean, there are so many substyles in gothic that I sometimes think it is hard, especially for myself, to say I am this style or I'm this style, because mostly I'm just neither of any of them. I'm just me. And I think to understand that that's a very important thing, to just say, okay, I like this music and I might not listen to it all the time. I also enjoy other genres a lot, and I like to dress this way and like to express myself in this way, and I also share the beliefs and the views of this subculture I think at this point you can really call yourself a goth. But at the end, that is actually up to you if you want to do that, or if you say, okay, I just like this and do not quite care about the rest. But as for myself, I still sometimes struggle because even though I know that for me everything of this is very much part of my life, I still sometimes think that I am not goth enough, which is actually kind of funny, but I think many people actually can relate to that, even though you might wear the most fancy goth outfit in other people's eyes, it still feels basic to you. And I'm pretty much at this point at the moment, and it is actually kind of ridiculous sometimes. But that's just reality. Yeah, I hope you like this little late night talk of myself. And yeah, maybe it's gonna be a new series. I don't know. Tell me in the comments and leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and see you for the next video on next Friday, as always, and see you.